Ethan Cole was a rising tech entrepreneur with secrets that could ruin lives. Victor Lane was a rival who would stop at nothing to protect his empire. But in the middle of the Black Rock Desert, at the world-famous Burning Man Festival, their paths collided in a way no one could have predicted, and Ethan was found dead in a pool of blood. What happened in the desert that night remains one of the most chilling unsolved murders of our time. The Black Rock Desert was alive with color, noise, and the energy of thousands who had come together to escape the ordinary world. Dust swirled around art cars glowing with neon, and music pulsed endlessly through the night. Towering wooden sculptures lit up the horizon, and fire dancers twirled beneath the stars. For many, Burning Man was not just a festival, but a transformation, a place where the outside world's rules seemed to fade away. People wandered freely, dressed in costumes of feathers, lights, and leather, and for a week the desert became a city born of creativity and chaos. On the third night, however, the illusion began to crumble. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the desert chilled, an eerie discovery shattered the sense of freedom that had drawn so many to this place. A man was found inside his tent, lying face down, unmoving, surrounded by blood that seeped into the dusty ground. At first, some thought it was a disturbing piece of performance art, the kind Burning Man was known for, shocking, emotional, and unforgettable. But as the minutes passed and whispers spread, the reality became undeniable. This was no act. The discovery sent ripples across the festival. Strangers who had been dancing together only hours earlier now exchanged fearful glances. Word traveled quickly through camps, each retelling more urgent than the last. Security rushed to the scene, trying to keep order in a place where order rarely existed. Flashlights cut through the night, illuminating curious faces and frightened eyes. Some festival-goers tried to dismiss what they had heard, clinging to the idea that it couldn't be real, not here, not in a place meant for freedom and connection. Others felt a chill, realizing the desert's vast openness could not protect them from violence. The once playful chaos of Burning Man began to feel heavy, almost suffocating. Those who were closest to the scene spoke later of the strange silence that fell over the nearby camp as the truth sank in. Music from distant stages carried faintly on the wind, clashing with the grim scene unfolding in the sand. The contrast was jarring. Just beyond the tent, people still danced under lasers and fire bursts, unaware that a tragedy had erupted only a short walk away. Inside the perimeter, the glow of lanterns revealed the dark red stain spreading beneath the lifeless body. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and something metallic that did not belong. As the tent was cordoned off and emergency vehicles made their way across the desert floor, the reality of what had happened became impossible to ignore. A man was dead, and not by accident. His life had ended in a brutal way in a place that prided itself on trust and community. It was the kind of discovery that burned into memory, leaving those who witnessed it haunted by the image. For them, Burning Man would never again be just art and fire. It would forever be marked by the night the dream turned into a nightmare, and the desert revealed a darkness no one expected. Ethan Cole was the man whose life had ended in the desert, and his story quickly became the center of every whispered conversation at Burning Man. He was 34 years old, a man who seemed to live on the edge of success and danger. Those who knew him described him as ambitious, someone who chased the kind of lifestyle most could only dream of. On social media, Ethan appeared to be living a flawless life. Pictures showed him at rooftop parties in San Francisco, sailing with friends on weekends, and speaking confidently at tech conferences. Behind the polished image, however, was a man whose path was lined with controversy. He had risen quickly in the world of cryptocurrency, launching a company that promised investors huge returns. For a while, the money poured in, and Ethan became a rising star. But success had bred resentment, and soon accusations began to surface. Former partners claimed he had cut them out of deals. Others said he had taken millions without delivering what he promised. Despite the turmoil, Ethan had chosen to come to Burning Man for the first time that year. To some, it seemed like an escape, a way to shed the growing pressure of lawsuits and angry investors. To others, it felt almost arrogant, as if he wanted to show the world that nothing could touch him. He arrived in the desert with a custom-built camper, a small entourage, and access to one of the exclusive private camps where wealthy festival-goers lived in comfort while others slept in simple tents. His presence was noticed immediately, and people who had never met him before were drawn to his charm. Ethan had a way of making everyone feel important when he spoke to them, a skill that had likely helped him build both his fortune and his enemies. As investigators pieced together his background, they discovered contradictions that painted a far more complicated picture than the one Ethan projected. He had loyal friends who defended him, insisting he was misunderstood, a visionary unfairly targeted by jealous rivals. Yet just as many people described him as manipulative, selfish, and reckless, his personal life reflected the same instability as his business. He had been linked to several women in the tech world, some of whom ended those relationships on bitter terms. One former partner even hinted online that he had ruined her career and stolen her ideas. These unresolved grudges now seemed far more significant in light of his violent death. Ethan's final days at Burning Man revealed more hints about the dangers circling around him. Witnesses recalled heated arguments near his camp, voices raised in anger that quickly hushed when others approached. He was seen slipping away from parties, meeting privately with strangers in the shadows of massive art installations. Rumors spread that he was trying to negotiate deals even in the desert, seeking one last chance to save his crumbling empire. Whether those meetings were about business or something more personal remained unclear, but they left behind a trail of suspicion. The man in the pool of blood was not just a random victim. He was someone who had made powerful enemies, and the desert may have been the place where they finally caught up to him. The investigation began as soon as festival security realized that Ethan Cole's death was not an accident. Local authorities, already familiar with the chaotic environment of Burning Man, moved quickly to secure the area. Officers marked a perimeter around the tent, pushing back curious onlookers while forensic teams worked under harsh beams of portable lights. In a desert city built on openness and trust, the sight of police tape cutting through the dust was surreal. The first detail investigators noticed was the state of the body. Ethan had suffered multiple stab wounds, each deliberate and violent. The pattern suggested a personal attack rather than a random act of aggression. His wallet was still tucked into his belongings, untouched, and his expensive watch remained on his wrist. This was not a robbery. Whoever killed him wanted him dead and nothing more. The search of the tent revealed another troubling detail. There were no signs of forced entry. The flap had not been cut or damaged, and nothing appeared disturbed apart from the pool of blood and the scattered bedding. That meant whoever entered the tent either walked in freely or was let in by Ethan himself. For detectives, this detail changed the course of their thinking. The killer was not an anonymous stranger wandering the festival. The killer was someone Ethan trusted, someone he likely knew. Outside the tent, the desert became a vast crime scene. Footprints stretched in all directions, most of them impossible to trace in the shifting sand. But just a few meters away, buried shallowly beneath the surface, investigators found a knife. It was long, heavy, and stained with blood. The weapon had been hastily concealed, as if the killer needed to get rid of it quickly before fleeing into the night. Forensic specialists lifted fingerprints from the handle, but when they were run through the system, they did not match any of Ethan's known associates. The mystery deepened. Detectives then turned their attention to the people camped nearby. Burning Man is known for its open community, where tents and camps sit close together, but few reported seeing anything suspicious. A handful admitted to hearing noises during the night, muffled sounds, movement, perhaps a scuffle, but in the atmosphere of the festival, odd noises were everywhere. Music thundered from speakers across the playa, fireworks erupted without warning, and strangers stumbled in and out of camps at all hours. What might have been cries for help were dismissed as part of the constant background of chaos. Despite the obstacles, investigators pieced together a timeline. Ethan had been seen alive earlier in the evening, walking between camps, socializing and drinking. Witnesses recalled him being in good spirits, though some noted tension in his interactions. One person claimed he argued with someone near a fire-lit art structure, though they couldn't identify who it was. Hours later, his body was discovered, with no one able to pinpoint exactly when the attack occurred. As dawn broke over the desert, the reality of the crime settled in. A man had been murdered in the middle of one of the largest gatherings in the world, and yet the killer had vanished into the crowd without a trace. What had seemed like the safest place for Ethan, a festival built on community and connection, had become the perfect cover for someone who wanted him silenced forever. As the investigation progressed, the desert seemed to hold its secrets tighter than ever. Detectives began to uncover details that complicated the story, casting suspicion in multiple directions. Among the first leads was Victor Lane, a business rival of Ethan Cole. Victor had been embroiled in a bitter dispute over a failed tech venture just weeks before the festival. Sources claimed the conflict had become personal, with public threats exchanged online and rumors of financial sabotage whispered in private circles. Witnesses at Burning Man reported seeing Victor near Ethan's camp late at night, pacing anxiously and speaking in low tones with another attendee. Yet when questioned, Victor provided an alibi, insisting he had been attending a different event at the far edge of the festival during the estimated time of death. The alibi seemed solid, but the timing of his movements, combined with the animosity between the two men, painted a troubling picture. Adding to the complexity was the discovery of another mysterious presence at the festival. Investigators learned that Ethan had been seen meeting privately with a woman whose identity was unknown. She appeared suddenly in the crowd, seemingly drawn to his exclusive camp, and disappeared just as quickly. A bracelet left behind at the site of their meeting provided the only clue to her existence. Analysis traced it to a limited edition designer collection, meaning the woman had access to elite social circles. This raised more questions. Was she an accomplice, a lover, or a witness who fled in fear? Her sudden vanishing act suggested she knew something that could either incriminate or protect her. As detectives examined these threads, they noticed a pattern of careful planning. The knife had been deliberately hidden, the attack had been executed with precision, and the killer had left no footprints leading directly to the body. Whoever carried out the murder had anticipated the chaos of the festival and exploited it, blending seamlessly into the crowd. This was not a crime of passion committed in a fit of rage. It was a calculated move, designed to send a message and disappear before anyone could intervene. The festival itself added an unsettling backdrop to the investigation. The massive art installations, towering fires and swirling dust made it difficult to track movements, but also provided countless hiding places. Investigators realized that the very nature of Burning Man, a celebration of anonymity and freedom, had been weaponized. Every camper became a potential suspect, and every stranger a possible witness. Even the most innocuous interactions, a nod, a shared laugh, a brief conversation, might hold a hidden significance. Days passed, and the investigation yielded no arrests. Leads went cold, alibis held strong, and witnesses' memories blurred under the relentless desert sun. The combination of wealth, secrecy, and festival chaos created a perfect storm for a crime that seemed unsolvable. Questions multiplied. Had Victor acted alone? Had the mysterious woman been involved? Or had Ethan's complicated business dealings drawn someone entirely unexpected into the desert that night? With each unanswered question, the shadow over Burning Man grew heavier, transforming a celebration of creativity into a haunting reminder that danger could lurk even in the most unlikely places. Weeks passed after Ethan Cole's death, but the Black Rock Desert held its secrets tight. Despite exhaustive investigation, the case remained frustratingly unresolved. Detectives had followed every lead, interviewed dozens of witnesses, and traced every possible connection to Ethan's personal and professional life, yet the killer seemed to have vanished without a trace. Victor Lane, the wealthy rival with the motive, was repeatedly questioned, but his alibi remained airtight. Surveillance from nearby camps offered no proof placing him near the crime scene at the critical time. Each promising thread unraveled, leaving investigators staring at a puzzle with too many missing pieces. The festival, which had initially seemed like a scene of celebration, had transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and suspicion. The mysterious woman who had been seen meeting Ethan remained untraceable. Her designer bracelet, the only tangible clue, led nowhere. Investigators scoured social media, high-end fashion circles, and even resort guest lists, but she seemed to have evaporated into thin air. Some theorized she had been involved in the murder either directly or indirectly. Others believed she might have been a witness, someone who had seen something crucial and fled out of fear. The desert, vast and unforgiving, allowed her disappearance to feel almost inevitable. Every detail of her presence was now magnified, her timing, her actions, even the path she had taken through the festival, all potential keys to a locked door that remained shut. Ethan's own past complicated the search for answers. His dealings in the volatile world of cryptocurrency and tech startups had left him with numerous enemies. Some had been threatened, others defrauded, and a few had been humiliated publicly. Any one of them could have harbored a lethal grudge. Investigators struggled to separate genuine suspects from those motivated purely by rumor or conjecture. The desert had swallowed up clear answers, leaving only suspicion and fear behind. It became evident that Ethan's murder was more than a random act. It was the culmination of years of conflict, betrayal, and ambition. Even the festival itself seemed to play a role in obscuring the truth. With tens of thousands of attendees, the constant movement of people, art installations, and sound made piecing together events nearly impossible. Night after night, thousands of strangers mingled, danced, and disappeared into the dust. Each person became a potential witness or perpetrator. Every fleeting interaction carried the possibility of a clue, but in the chaos, nothing could be pinned down. The very environment that made Burning Man a magical escape also made it a perfect cover for a calculated crime. Today, Ethan Cole's death remains unsolved, a chilling reminder that not all crimes can be neatly closed. His story lingers at the festival, whispered among those who were there, a dark shadow beneath the bright lights and swirling dust. The desert itself seems to hold a memory of that night, a silent witness to betrayal and violence. Burning Man continues every year, and while the fires burn and the art rises, the truth about Ethan's final moments remains buried. Some mysteries never fade, and the murder of a man in a pool of blood in the heart of a festival built on freedom and trust will forever be one of them.